Hey guys, what's going on, everybody? This is Dane from NYYU. We'd like to welcome you to the Yankees Farm Report. Carlos, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Dane. How are you?
Well, you look fantastic with our hat on. If anybody doesn't
Yeah, man.
know, we got the Farm Report gear on NYY News. Or NYYU. I've got the
Oh,
hooded
the sweatshirt.
sweatshirt on. You got some sick new gear over there. But first, we wanted to hop into the pitching at the upper levels and talk about what happened during the year and what we might see for next year. So, what did we have at AAA this year?
I mean, the triple. I just wanted to showcase how we've said this many times before about how the pitching is different this year. Like there's a huge crop of guys of prospects up and down the system that that the Yankees should be able to cash in on, right? That they should be able to
Yes.
um get a couple of starters and definitely fill their bullpen from starting with some of the guys that you've already seen, like Johnny Brito. Johnny Brito has been really, really good coming out of the bullpen this season.
Yeah, he
I don't know what
has.
the numbers are exactly at this point, but I know at one point, or the last time I looked, he was around 20 innings, pitching to a sub 2 ERA. He's been tremendous. You've seen Randy Vasquez. Randy Vasquez has been really good, eating up 2, 3 innings at a time. And at AAA behind them, you still have Will Warren, who's been on a fantastic run over the last 7 or 8 games, I would say.
Yes.
He's going to finish out the regular season with a sub 4 ERA. I think he's around 3.9 right now.
Yeah.
Um, and then you had Clayton Beeter, who's coming off of the International League's Pitcher of the Week after throwing, I think it was 7 shutout innings with 13 strikeouts.
Yeah. He had a huge game. But
Mm-hmm.
getting into Warren a little bit, he has really turned it on the last 4 or 5 starts. I mean, he has looked the best that I've ever seen him look. He's
Absolutely.
pared down the pitch package a little bit. He's gotten, from what I understand, he's gotten rid of the cutter and the curveball. He's thrown about 35-40% sweepers and sliders, and then the four seam and the sinker. I mean, he has just looked absolutely fantastic, and he's put himself in a position where he could be in that rotation next year.
Yeah, he should definitely head into spring training competing for one of those spots going into next season. And I would say even longer than that. I would say maybe the last 8 games he looked absolutely
Yeah.
phenomenal. And especially the start last week was a really exciting start for him.
Yeah, it was. And if you guys haven't seen that video, go back and check out Carlos's video on him from last week. It was absolutely phenomenal. And you
Hmm.
ought to check out the Beaters 13K game. He looked really, really good in that as well. Now,
Hmm.
when it gets to Beaters, what do you see his role being next year?
Um, I want to still have him competing as a starting pitcher until he's no longer that, right? Because at times he's looked really good. I know this his last start, which was yesterday. I think he went 6 innings. He gave up 3 runs early on, but he still struck out 7. And I think he's
Right.
still working on the command issue. It's a bit up and down as far as the command, but I mean he's still a guy that I get really excited about. He's been one of my favorite pitchers this season, and I want to see how far he can go as far as the starting pitching rotation.
Yeah, I think that he has a chance to be a starter, but with so much pitching depth in the system, I think he's going to be a bullpen or at least break in that way. I don't see him going directly to the rotation next year,
Hmm. I mean, he could, to my opinion, I think he could definitely be a weapon on the back end of the bullpen.
at least to start.
Hmm.
And then you get to AA, and what do we have there?
Well, one more thing that I did want to talk about.
Oh,
Again, this is the theme of the day here is pitching. At Scranton, they're fifth in ERA at 4.67. They were second in WHIP 2.42. They were first in average against 242 and fourth in Ks. So again, it's just how well this pitching has been from top to bottom, and we'll showcase that as we keep going through the levels. At AA, they were first in ERA, they were first in WHIP, they were first in average against, they were first in Ks, second in K through 9, and fifth in walks through 9. Absolutely phenomenal job by that rotation from top to bottom.
Oh yeah, all year long. They started with Beater and Warren in that rotation. Later through the year, they got Fitz, they got Chase, they got
Chase,
Thorpe.
Thorpe.
Yeah, the best pitching has been through that level this year, and there's a lot of guys to really be excited about.
Yep. I mean, and just looking at Richard Fitz's season, he's third in ERA, first in K, first in WHIP, and second in average against. Absolutely phenomenal season from him. And hopefully we'll see him in Scranton, and before we know it, maybe a shot in the Bronx.
I wouldn't surprise me if he competed for that fifth starter spot in spring training with Warren and Beaters if they leave
I
that
mean,
as an open.
there's gonna be a lot of competition for that spot, I think, going into next season.
Yeah. And then we have our top two pitching prospects in the system, in my opinion, in Hampton and Thorpe. Thorpe is obviously the more polished, more ready guy,
Mm-hmm.
but Chase has still got a ceiling that's every bit as high as Thorpe's, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and for me he's just a really exciting pitcher because the strikeouts and the way he can get the fastball going. So it's really exciting to see from a fan's perspective. And he's the guy that I'm most excited about. But yeah, Drew Thorpe is definitely a more polished pitcher. I think he's nearly ready, and as of right now, you could have probably inserted him into the fourth of his slot in the rotation.
And he would have been just fine. He's
I believe so. Yeah.
one of the three finalists for the pitcher of the year in the minor
Mm-hmm.
leagues. I'm not sure he's going to win that award because Cade Horton has had a huge year,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to like his
I mean,
chances.
I do. I don't mean I don't know what Cade's complete numbers look like. I haven't really looked at them. But I just know that every night that Drew Thorpe has gone down there, he's giving you 6, 7 innings, maybe longer. 9, 10 strikeouts for him was pretty much norm. He's had a phenomenal season as far as for me, from my point, as far as pitchers that I've watched. I don't think I've ever seen um a more solid pitching prospect.
I haven't either. I've been watching Yankee pitching prospects for 20 years, and as of right now, he's the best Yankee pitching prospect I've seen in that time. He's the most complete. The stuff might not be
Mm-hmm.
the best, but overall, it's the most polished package that we've ever seen
Yeah,
since I can remember.
he's not a guy who's gonna light up a radar gun. It's just his secondary pitches. The changeup is just filthy, and the slider is nasty as well. And like you said, he's a very polished pitcher. And I go back to for me, pitching prospect wise, I mean, I remember guys like Sam Militello were top pitching prospects. Brad Housley, or even the guy who's right now the pitching coach at Hudson Valley, which Preston Claiborne.
Yeah,
Nope, I've never seen a pitcher in the Yankee system like this.
no, me either. He's past Sevy, he's past Hughes, he's past Jabba Chamberlain, he's
Mm-hmm.
past all those guys. Now, another guy at Double A was Yoendry Gomes,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been kind of hurt, working his way back all year. We were told that he's probably got another option left next year because he had so much time on the 60-day IL. That's how it worked with Devi. What do you see his role being next year?
I mean, because of what you just said, his injury status, and unfortunately, he's had back-to-back seasons where he's had injuries and have cost him significant playing time. Probably the bullpen, I want to say. Maybe he could be one of those middle relievers who eats up 3, 4 innings at a time when needed, but definitely a multi-inning reliever.
Yeah, I could see that. And I want to see him in the Mike King role where he's a multi-inning guy that can give you 2, 3 innings and really keep the stuff at a high level during that time. I think if he could stay healthy, he would be one of my favorite starting pitching prospects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and that's just the thing, though. It's just that you've got back-to-back seasons where he's had, I believe, I'm not sure if it was arm or shoulder, but back-to-back seasons where he's lost significant time. And maybe he is the guy that can fill in that Mike King role. But to me, as of right now, I would say that Johnny Brito probably has, he's in the pole position as far as taking over that role.
That's a really good point. And we had some really quality relievers that we saw at AA too that we can't
Yeah.
not mention. Do you want to get into those guys?
Well, you have Ryan Anderson, who's been really good. You had to me, Danny Watson is probably one of the guys that should probably get the first crack at the bullpen going into next season. Um, he's not a guy. He's another guy. He doesn't light up. He doesn't light up the radar. I mean, he's what 89 to 91 on the fastball, but it's just arm angle. He's a sidearm guy if you've never seen him before, and it's just the angle at which he's coming at you, especially on right-handed hitters. He's just filthy.
Yeah, he's 6'8" and he comes at you at an almost flat arm angle, and it's incredibly hard to pick up. And then his secondary stuff, which is this big, huge sweeper that's absolutely filthy, and a changeup that both get swings and misses very, very effectively.
Mhm.
And then you have a guy
Um,
down there like Jack Neely,
yeah.
who is a
Jack
more,
Newton, I think he's got like a closer stuff in my opinion.
yeah.
He's just been absolutely filthy. Going back to Hudson Valley, he was almost nearly unhittable, and at Somerset, he was a little. It took a couple games for him to adjust, but I think he started to adjust well towards the end there.
Yeah. Um, and then Tanner Myatt was there for a while. What
Mhm.
He's another guy that has a high ceiling as a bullpen arm.
He is another guy. I think he might probably be a tier below Jack Neely, the Danny Watson, and even Bailey Dees, but
Bailey
definitely.
D's. What I'm trying to think of anybody else at AA that we would mention.
Well, right now, well, he just got there, but Harrison Cohen is another guy.
Oh yeah,
He was really good at Hudson Valley, but he just got there as well. If you've never seen him pitch, he kind of reminds me of a almost like a Tommy K.
Haley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that comparison. And then who was the other kid that was there that I don't remember. Anyway, going on to the next guy. Who was it you want to talk about?
Well, yeah, Hudson Valley or at Somerset.
Somerset.
Well, Bailey Dees was probably the other arm,
Yeah,
who's also there as well. He's been phenomenal. Um, to me, he probably falls behind Jack Neely and Danny Watson, but he's also another guy who I think could be really good bullpen piece for the Yankees.
and he's got a more traditional arm slot. Another bigger, taller kid.
I think it's funny. I think they all are. I think Neely's like 6'8", Watson is 6'7", and I think Bailey's also 6'7" as well.
Yeah, just some big boys. Tanner's big
Hmm.
too.
Hmm.
So at Hudson Valley, obviously that's where everybody that Chase Drew started, but we had Brendan Beck there, who is someone
Yeah, I
I'm a
mean,
lot higher on than most.
you're big on him, but yeah, I mean the pitching coming out of Hudson Valley has just been phenomenal. They were first in ERA, they were first in WHIP, first in average against, first in Ks through nine, and fourth in walks through nine. Absolutely phenomenal job down there.
Yeah, the pitching down there has been silly all year, both in the rotation and the bullpen.
Hmm. Um, Absolutely. I mean, you had Drew Thorpe there for most of the season, finished that first in ERA, he's second in Ks, first in WHIP, first in average against. Then you also had one of the guys the Yankees traded away, which was Juan Corella. He was second in ERA, third in Ks, second in WHIP, second in average against. Zach Messenger for a while was in the top five in ERA. He finished 10th in Ks. And as we mentioned before, Jack Neely, he finished third in saves, but um, absolutely phenomenal job pitching from top to bottom on this team all season long has been phenomenal. Even when you had promotions of Drew Thorpe, Chase Hampton, traded away Juan Corella, Tyrone Uli went down. They were able to replace those guys with like Brendan Beck, Brock Selvage, who I'm really big on. Probably not probably, he definitely is the best left-handed pitcher, starting pitcher in the system. With just phenomenal job.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Brock.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me a lot of Andy Pettit, down to the
Mm-hmm.
glove in front of the eyes and everything. The fastball command with him is special. He
Mm-hmm.
can really paint corners with that. The splitter and the cutter that he's developed to become good pitches. I'm really excited. He's only 20, so he has a chance to add some more velocity as he fills out.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with you. Very excited about Brock. I think he could be a really good pitcher. I hit him up a couple of days ago because I started to see some emotion from him on the hill, and you know how I love to see that. He was like, "Yeah, it was
Uh-huh.
just in the heat of the moment." But yeah, Brock has been filthy, and the fact that I think he might have just turned 21, maybe a couple of days ago, or maybe a week or so ago. But absolutely phenomenal job from him this season, and I love the progression.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he does next year. I think he's going to have a put himself directly on the prospect map next year.
Yeah, the other guy I wanted to talk about there was Brendan Beck. He has been really good. It's unfortunate that his season was cut a little bit short after he had already started on the IL, but another guy I'm really looking forward to seeing him next season. And
Yeah,
I guess you said
absolutely.
before, I know you're really big on him.
Yeah, he doesn't have the overpowering fastball, but he reminds me of Drew Thorpe in that way, where his secondaries are so good that he can get away with subpar fastball velocity.
Yeah, he's a really sound pitcher.
Yeah. So
And going into the bullpen there, you had guys like Clay Aguilar, Mason Vineyard, who had a promotion there. You had Cole Ayers, who was very good there. Well, you had Ryan Anderson, Harrison Cohen, who also came from there as well. I forgot what was that. I think
Luis
Nick
Velasquez.
Luis Velasquez is an absolute
Yeah.
beast there. Once he took a little bit to adjust, and once he did, he was just automatic guy out there.
Yeah. And what's so unique about him is he holds his velocity 40, 50, 55 pitches into a game. He can be a true 2, 3 inning weapon guy. And that slider, when it's on, is just filthy.
You pair that with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball,
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal pitcher for me.
Yeah. I think he's going to factor into the back of our bullpen sometime late next year or 2025. So, anybody else at that level?
At that level, I think those are probably the only guys we wanted to mention. Um, yeah, those are the only guys that were that I wanted to mention there.
Okay. Now, at Tampa, we had some guys start there, didn't finish with much there, but
Yeah, I think right now probably Sean Herman is the only guy that I would probably mention. Um, there are another team that's in transition, right? Because the draft is coming in. So you had a few guys moving over from FCL.
right. Um, do we want to touch on the FCL kids? Because there's some pretty
Um,
special arms down there.
Absolutely, man. You know, it's one of my favorite teams.
Yeah.
Um, at the FCL team, they finished fourth in ERA, fourth in WHIP, third in average against, first in Ks. And that brings me to Carlos Lagrange, who was the K leader at the FCL. Jordala Mendoza was the win leader, and Alan Facundo was second in wins in the FCL.
Some of those kids on Lalane, Lagrange, I can't wait to see them next year. Um, Everything that you read, I think Baseball America had a report last week about Lalane
Mm-hmm.
and
He's been
the
getting a lot of buzz lately.
yeah, the glowing reports about how good he looks. And guys, if you haven't looked him up, he's a big 6'7", 6'8" kid that has a motion that will give you memories of Randy Johnson, maybe a little Chris Sale. He's all arms and knees and hides the ball very, very well. He is left-handed and he is someone to look out for. He's going to be a
Mhm.
very good starter for us.
Yeah, he looked phenomenal, man. I can't wait to see him. I truly hope that he's on the Tampa team by the time they come down to West Palm Beach so I can get a look at him live. Because I
Yeah.
definitely want to see him in the game.
And then we have Arias, who had a really good season as well.
Oh, Chalniel Arias, he was absolutely phenomenal at the DSL. He came up. It was a bit rough, I want to say, the first two games, but his last outing was probably his best outing. Yeah, there was a bit of an adjustment there, but another guy that I'm going to be watching going into the season in 2024.
So who else was down there?
Well, there you had Osiel Rodriguez. He had no business being at the FCL. He ended the season at Hudson Valley, and he was so happy when he finally got to Tampa. You had Sebastian King, who got a late promotion. I think he ended the season also at Hudson Valley.
Yeah,
Um, Miguel Pozo had a really good season for them, pitched to a 188 ERA. Alan Facundo, another guy, a left-handed pitcher, pretty nasty. I have a few videos on him as well. He pitched to a 237 ERA. You had Cam Schlittler, who I believe started last night's game
he
at
did.
Hudson Valley. Yeah. I think he went 3 innings, gave up 3 runs, struck out 6. And unfortunately, if you haven't noticed, or if you hadn't realized, Hudson Valley was eliminated last night. It just didn't hit at all. But that's for another day.
Yeah. So I really kind of looking forward to seeing what those guys do next year. There's some growth that they can take, but if they take that next step, we're going to be talking about them in the same light that we're talking about Chase, Gomes, Beck, those kind of guys
Mhm.
next year.
Yeah, I mean this team was really exciting. There's we've spoken about them before. There's the potential here for 5, 6, maybe top 30 prospects on this team as it is right now. And there's some pretty good pitchers there, especially Henry Lalane, Carlos Lagrange. Um, there's a guys to watch going forward in the next season or two, just to see where they are. Or you know, as I said, these are guys that are going to be in the top 30, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on them going forward. There's definitely some guys that the Yankees will probably be able um to develop a little bit better, and hopefully we see them at Tampa, Hudson Valley, and Somerset soon.
Yeah. Overall, the pitching in this system is the deepest it's ever been that
Hmm.
I've been watching. And we have, it's not like we have one or two arms in the system that we're hoping can affect the major league roster. We've got 10, 15, 20, 25 guys that throughout the system that can eventually have ceilings of major league pitchers. I mean, the amount of pitching is just absolutely nuts. And they haven't spent big on pitching in the draft or an IFA either. And they're still turning out this quality of guys. It really says something for the development system, how good they are getting at developing pitching.
I mean, my hope is that, the starting pitching starts to catch up with the bullpen guys, because for a while now, the Yankees have been pretty good at developing and pumping out arms for the bullpen. So you're kind of starting to see that catching up now a little bit. And so it's my hope that you see 1 or 2 starters come out of this crop. And it's also another reason why I don't want to see the Yankees spend in terms of bullpen, because I think that there are options within the organization that they can use.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to, Will Warren could start in the bullpen. Clayton Beaters could start in the bullpen. Henry
Your
Gomes could
injuries.
start.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think they would be just as good or better than what we've had in those roles all year this year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, was there anything more on the pitching side, or can we jump into the catchers a little bit?
I mean, at the DSL, I just wanted to mention real quick, there's a couple guys there to keep an eye on. I know that they're really far away, but you had Mariano Salomon. I believe he was a rookie this year, his first season. He was really good, pitched to a 3.13 ERA, 46 innings, 60 strikeouts. You had Kennison Diaz, he pitched to a 2.83 ERA, 28 innings, 46 strikeouts. Another guy that was really interesting to me was Michael Perez. I know he had a really high ERA, but he pitched 24 innings, 46 strikeouts. You also had a lefty, Pedro Rodriguez. He pitched to a 2.93 ERA, 28 innings, 36 strikeouts. So there's a few guys down there to keep an eye on. Christian Zazueta, Joshua Kate Cazada as well. So those are just a few guys that are pretty far down the line, but just to keep an eye on.
So, guys, we wanted to jump into one last thing before we let you guys get out of here. We want to talk about some catching depth in the system and what they're going to do with it next year. We got a report this morning from an advanced scout that he believes that Ben Rice is a legitimate catcher, that he's going to be at least MLB average or better behind the plate. And that's kind of new information. We hadn't really heard that the last few weeks when we've been talking about him. What do you think of that, Carlos?
I mean, that's a plus if that if he can stick behind catcher. But for me, I think his clearest path is probably first base. I mean, I know they still have Rizzo, but who knows how he's going to come back next season. I just think that's his clearest and fastest path to the Bronx.
That makes sense. But if you look at the bat, what that's done in the last 6, 8 weeks, if you put that behind the plate, that's an incredibly valuable player.
Absolutely.
Would you consider Wells at first base and Rice behind the plate if he's a little bit better defender than Wells? Or
I mean, I personally I don't like the whole out of position thing. They've never tried
uh-huh.
Wells at first base.
Good
They had
point.
what they've had 2+ seasons to experiment with that down at Double-A, even at Scranton, and they never did it. But meanwhile, Rice has been playing first base since he was at Single-A Tampa. I mean, for me, I would hope they go into the next season with either Trevino or Rortvet as the primary catchers, and then Wells as the secondary catcher, or vice versa.
Uh-huh.
But two of those three, well, not two of those three, because I definitely want Wells to make the team, to be on the team next season. But that's what my thinking is going into 2024, that I would want Wells to be paired up with someone else, going into the season as a catcher.
And then you would leave Rice in AAA for this at least the start of the year to see how Rizzo does. And if Rizzo isn't healthy, you have Rice come up and play third base.
Definitely, yes,
First base, I mean.
definitely, yes, first base.
So yeah. So that also brings in Augustus Ramirez.
Mhm.
What do they do? Obviously, he's in Double-A as well on the doorstep. What do you do there?
I mean, I continue to develop Augustin Remy because the bat is tremendous. If you can have that from that kind of bat from the catching position, it's a plus plus. I would definitely send him back to Somerset. Hopefully, do a full season there, depending on how well he hits, before I promote him to Scranton and then take it from there. But definitely continue on as if he's going to be the next catcher.
So, in your mind, you're moving on from Higgy, one of Trevino and Rortvet.
I would definitely say move on from Higgy, because Higgy's already making, what is it? I think he's making like $1.6 million this season.
Yeah, I
He'll
think
go into arbitration next season, probably puts him at 2 million or just around there. I mean, I would definitely try to move on, and like I said, I would rather see a platoon of Trevino slash Vorvet with Higgy, with Wells.
yeah. Okay, and then Jesus Rodriguez, who's another guy I always talk about because he's one of my
Hmm.
favorite, but he's also a catcher in high A who is Rule 5 eligible.
Hmm.
Do you protect him? Do you put him on the 40 man? Do you leave him exposed?
Um, I definitely would want him to continue in this organization. Even if it's not a catcher, he can play multiple positions, as he plays first, third, left field as well. Um, I mean, he's still it's high A. I probably lean towards protecting him. There's going to be a lot of opening next season. I would say at least a dozen. So there should be ample room to add Jesus to the 40 man.
Okay. And then there's one other guy, Carlos Narvaez. What do you do with him?
I thought we should have at least got a look at him this season. There were opportunities for that. They just uh didn't make any move towards that, which was I'm to be honest with you, I was a little surprised, especially because they came out of spring training really high on him. So it was surprising that he didn't at least get a look this season. So I'm not sure either, but I would probably say they're probably going to move on from Narvaez, especially since they're so deep in the system.
Yeah, there's so much catching depth. It's silly. And that
Hmm.
doesn't even count Euclid Urea, who hasn't even played yet. And he's coming. I mean, they have so
Yeah,
much
there's Lucas
catching depth.
Arena, right? You've also didn't mention Omar Martinez, who's down at Tampa.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, we have anything else we want to get to?
No, I think those are probably the only guys that we could get into right now.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for checking us out. We continue to be amazed by your guys' support online. We appreciate it so much. check us out at DMH0726 on Twitter. Of course, Yankees Farm on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter as well. Guys, we'll see you later.
Later, guys.
Later.